if it's not that much damage in the grand scheme of things. Yep. This is, I was talking about this in the coaching this Saturday, actually. I want to highlight what I just did there. Because that, I think, is a very important neutral fundamental that goes a little, bit underappreciated occasionally, I think. That was so preemptive, it wasn't even really a whiff punish, but I think that's how a lot of whiff punishing gets done, and we don't necessarily... I think a lot of people assume that kind of shit is always reactive, and it just isn't. And it can be. I'm not saying, oh, you never, ever, ever whiff punish reactively. It's just a lot of people will go like, oh, I don't have the reactions to play neutral, and it's like, it's not, most of it's not like that, man. Most of it's not like that. Most of it is basically predicting what you think your opponent's gonna do. So I was just doing this, right? Bonk, 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 and resetting in with 6XL every time. And after the second time that I did that, I was like, on the third, like, this cat has been very patient, but one thing they've shown a lot is that they really like to use Catalina's like huge stop sign buttons to be stop sign buttons, right? They like to interrupt me on the way in with far L's, 2M's, things like this. Catalina's really good at this, right? She's got these huge active frame buttons that can just stay there and you run into them as on your way in. So instead of, for the third time, instead of running back in and 6XLing, what I did is I ran in halfway and did that, right? That was essentially me preempting the fact that she was going to try and use her buttons to keep me out and doing something that would beat that, right? It's not magic. It's not like some crazy unattainable thing. It's a guess, right? I made a guess based on what I knew about how the Catalina was playing that she would try to stick a button out there to stop me, and I was right. Yeah, she ended up, I think, sticking out far L or something like that, right? She stuck out a far L and we like crushed it with far H or so. I think it was far L. We got something like that. A lot of this is how you end up playing around these characters with the big buttons in neutral as well. But it's, again, the point being here that you don't just do this in the corner, right? If you want to figure out, like, it was Ophidian in the Saturday substream, like, live coaching, right? Like, he's saying he struggled on Narmaya fighting characters with buttons that are bigger than hers, right? So he can't just, like Genji Narmaya's got decent buttons, but she can't, like, stand and bang in the mid-screen with some of these characters, namely, think characters like Catalina, think characters like Percival, etc., right? And one thing you can do with these characters is what Ladiva has to do, like, all the time, for example. I always say, like, look, go watch Gabagool fight good players, and this is what he does basically all the fucking time. This is what he has to do. If you're a character that has worse buttons, you kind of have to basically do the thing where you have to play their game. They want to use their big button to wall you out at a range that you can't play in, right? Catalina's far M is, if we turn on hitboxes, right? It's like about this big, right? So I want to stand kind of right outside of that range, get into that range, or look like I'm getting into that range to kind of trick her into hitting that far M, right? Let me have her do far M. Get into that range to trick her into hitting far M, right? But just kind of dance right on the outside of it and then smack her for it, right? This is a whiff punish. This is like the, this is what people refer to as a whiff punish. But again, very rarely is this necessarily done reactively. Can it be? Yes. But a lot of the times it's just like, you do that, you walk out, you do it, right? You're just assuming that when you walk into the effective range of their move, they're going to use their move because that's the good thing to do. Yeah, that really is it, right? And that's why, by the way, when it's one reason why I harp on characters' walk speeds so much as opposed to their dash speeds, right? Because, like, the reason that you can do things, I feel like a lot of people sometimes will see high-level players do shit like this, where they're, like, walking back and forth in neutral, and then, they'll do it when they're playing the game, just because, like, that's apparently the good thing to do. But you don't really, like, one of the main reasons that stuff like this is done is for this exact purpose, right? To dance in and out of the max effective range of whatever button Catalina might be trying to use to keep you out, right? You want to be on the outside of that range, right? Whiff punish the extended hurt box and then convert from there. Very, very, very important pillar of just playing neutral in any fighting game. It's not a Grand Blue only thing, right? Very important pillar of any. When you hear people talk about the neutral triangle and you hear about, like, proactive play, reactive play, and anti-reactive play, right? Proactive is like, I throw a neutral skip, right? I throw like Willness Knee or something. That's not plus, but imagine it was. I throw like Willness Knee or a 6XL or something like that. I force the issue. Reactive play is what this Catalina is doing, basically, where she sees me enter the range of her far M and then hits far M, right? She's reacting to what I'm doing. Anti-reactive is guessing what her reaction is going to be and doing something that kills that. right? So if you're not doing this, you're just missing a whole third of the neutral triangle. And these people will probably tend to be like, yeah, I can't get it, because if your only options are either to force the issue or be the guy who can keep the other guy out, you're going to really struggle when you fight a character who has better normals than you do. You're going to really, really, really struggle with that, because it's hard to force the issue on Catalina, right? You can certainly try to just spam a 6XL or something like that, but it's very hard to just force the issue and get in on Catalina if she's being clever and doesn't want you to. And good luck being the one who plays reactively against Catalina. What, you're gonna like have Catalina walk into a range where you can hit her, but she can't hit you? Unless your name is 2B or Matera or something like that, that range doesn't exist, right? So you're only, like, if you don't have this, like, anti-reactive bit baked into your neutral, you have nothing left to do, right? And then a couple of corollaries from this, right? You'll have to forgive me. I was a discrete math TA back in the day. But a couple of corollaries that follow from this idea. This is why, for some reason, I find it difficult to whiff punish in this game unless a poke was super obvious. I think it's because you're trying to do it reactively. Again, right? Generally, yes, can I, like, watch Catalina whiff this and then hit her for it? Yes, right? Is that really difficult to do? Also, yeah. Think about it this way. I want to whiff punish with my far M, right? My far M hits on frame 7 if it's, like, point blank, I think. Yeah, frame 7, right? So, Catalina, her far M is 21 frames. Yeah? Her far M is 21 frames. So, and it does, I don't think the hurt box ever, like, does it, like, retract near the very end? Kind of. Yeah, for the last, like, oh yeah. For the last, like, 3 or 4 frames, it's, like, super hard. You have to be very close to whiff punish. It's probably not happening, right? So, in reality, this is closer to, like, 25 frames. Let's call it 25, right? If I want to whiff punish with my 7-frame far M, that means I have to react to Catalina doing her far M in 18 frames. Is that doable? Right? Is that a doable thing? Absolutely, right? Could you react in 18 frames? Yeah, it's totally within, like, even with some amount of mental stack, that is totally a doable thing, but it's on the borderline, right? And it's much different reacting to something on 18 for an 18 frame reaction check is much different when you're just down backing or something like that. That is very different than neutral. This right here is where you have the most things to worry about. This is the most complicated state of the game. This is where the most mental stack is at play. This is when it's going to be the least likely that you are going to hit an 18 frame reaction check with any kind of consistency, right? So could you do it? Yes. Are you going to do it consistently? No. And if you're the kind of person who thinks that you have to react to whiff punish, then yeah, you're going to have a lot of really big problems trying to whiff punish consistently. You're going to be like, I never fucking do this, right? Spacing traps are a similar thing to this, right? A spacing trap is like you push yourself out to a point where, you know, I don't think I can do this to Catalina. Maybe with my far H, I can do it to her far M. Yeah. Something like this, right? I push myself out to a point where her button isn't going to reach, right? And then I expect her. Let me do this a little quicker. There you go. I push her out to a point where she, you know, if she tries to retaliate, right, then I can kill her for it. This is a spacing trap. It's not a reactive whiff punish. I just assume that she'll think this is about the right range for my far M. She's gonna get it wrong, and I preemptively hit far H, right? So, yeah, this is a very, very important thing. But a couple corollaries from this is because I feel like these are some things that maybe might go unnoticed or uncared about, for example, by your average, like, intermediate fighting game player, right? I made a big deal. I think it was the wellness patch, right? I made a big deal out of...
What's the matter?
Once I tested a little bit more, I made a big deal out of this, right? Out of these buffs they gave to... I was like, this is, like, the nicest buff they gave her, right? And you might be like, why does this matter, right? Why is it important that Jita can do this? Startup for the second hit has been reduced only in instances where the first hit is whiffed. Why does anyone care about this? The reason people care about this is for that exact situation. Do you see that? You see how that actually connected? That wouldn't have done that last patch. So this, again, one of the very important things about being a good mid-range character is you have to be able to get good conversions on your buttons from far away. From much further than you would expect, right? Because it's such an important part of the mid-range is hitting these, like, big extended hurt boxes, right? Like, Cat whiffs her far M and I try to whiff punish it. Jita couldn't do that before, right? Jita could not do that before and now she can. That's not like, oh, Jita's a little, that's like like the rest of these buffs are like, oh, they're nice, right? This is this is, I think, gives her maybe like a slightly different combo extension somewhere, which might be good. You know, this stuff is like kind of nice. This stuff is kind of nice, but like this is a big buff. right? This is a lot for Jita because of how important this is as an aspect of neutral, right? It went from like Jita, if she got a far H from there, she would used to have to spend like basically 50 meter to do this, right? Now she gets to save that meter and basically carry you to the corner from round start. It's a really big deal, right? On another level, on another corollary that's even more fundamental, this, by the way, right, I know it's going to sound stupid to some people, but again, I think it's nice to understand these things from first principles. This whole idea of like, you know, this dancing in and out of ranges is one of the primary reasons that being in the corner is bad. I mentioned this earlier, right? This is one of the primary reasons that being in the corner is bad in the first place. Right? People think of like, oh, like people do their most damage in the corner, all of these, there's like wall bounces, whatever. One of the main reasons being in the corner sucks is because I can like, you know, try and adjust my spacing. I can walk forward, back, etc. And Catalina cannot, right? She can only walk into me, which is the most dangerous way to go, right? She can't back up anymore. She can't back up. She can't do any of this. So it becomes incredibly hard for her to bait me into doing anything, really. I get to determine the terms of engagement here. One of the worst things about being in the corner is the fact that walking back as an option is taken away from you, right? So, I know, it was concise, and then I kind of went off on a bunch of tangents because I think it's important to like understand not only why these things are the way they are, but also what does that mean for us. Quick summary, right? Very important part of playing neutral is this idea of walking right into the effective range of someone's button and then walking out and preemptively hitting a button to whiff punish them for it. It's not all whiff punishing is reactive. Most whiff punishing is not reactive, right? That's kind of the main thing. With that example of what we did to the Catalina during that match, right? And then the corollaries from that, this is why walk speed is so important, right? This is why the ability to convert off your hits from really long range is so important. And this is why being in the corner is so bad. Right, that's because that's kind of everything that I just talked about for the past like 15 minutes summarized into like 30 seconds right there, right? Very important thing that I think is not well understood by a lot of intermediate fighting game players. But yeah, I hope that's I mentioned that to Ophidian on Saturday, and I hope that is understandable to some people.